You're rich people creating problems for yourself. Hello, my name is Adriana and this is my November reading wrap-up. So I do really enjoy the month of November because it is the lead up to my favorite season, which is the winter. Because I get to go skiing and go do the things I enjoy and I'm not hot all the time. And I get to wear beanies and flannels and it's great. I love cold weather. I'm so excited for snow and great things to come, but we are focusing on November. Even though November isn't really quite over yet, to be completely honest, I am filming this, I think, with still 2 days more left in November. But I don't think I'm going to finish any books in that time, so I think this will hold true as my November reading wrap-up. So with that, we will jump into stats. So I read a total of 6 books in November, not my best, that accumulated to a total of 1,444 pages I read with my eyeballs. That was 32 hours of audiobooks, and my average page length for my eyeball reads was 480, and then my average rating for what I read this month was a 3.8. So you can see my ratings breakdown here. They were all above 3, which is great. We love that. I had one I didn't rate. I will talk about that. Next up we have my format breakdown. I was an all digital girly this last month. I did a lot of traveling, which made reading a bit hectic. But we love digital books because it allows me to travel with a little more ease. So we were half audiobook and half ebook. As for sources, again, because we were all digital this month, I either got them from the library or from the publisher slash author. Again, I will get into that a little bit more as I talk about the books individually. And then finally, my genre breakdown: 3 fantasy, 2 romance, and 1 nonfiction. Although I guess one of them was very much like a romantasy vibe, so I think I'm still going to slot it in fantasy because it's primarily fantasy, but again, we'll get into it later. So as for the book by book breakdown, the first book I finished in the month was Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I read this for a Vlog Squad challenge, so it will be in a vlog later in the month. I enjoyed this. I had a very good time reading it. I gave it a 4-star. Probably would have given it a 5-star had I been reading it in better circumstance, but like I said, I was more not at home this month than I was at home. So my life was very chaotic, lots going on, lots of work travel, lots of fun travel, and my brain was a little scrambled from jumping from coast to coast. But Delilah Green Doesn't Care is a romance story taking place in a fictional town in Western Oregon. That was actually one of my favorite parts about reading this book, is I recognized so much of, like, even though the town is fictional, like the general area is pretty true to life as far as Western Oregon goes. They did like a little wine tasting thing. I've also been wine tasting in the Willamette Valley. They did some waterfall hiking things. I've done waterfall hiking things in Oregon, so it was kind of fun to like see stuff I've done in a book. And I thought the plot was really fun and kind of unique. It gave very much like 2010s rom-com, but like updated and like refreshed for the times. So that was really cool. It was like part nostalgia but part like innovative and fun. So maybe I'm talking myself into giving this a higher rating, but I really enjoyed this. It was a very good time. The next book I read, I actually have a physical copy of. I'm gonna go grab it. Okay. The next book I read was Eve. I actually read this as a NetGalley arc, so I still read it in a digital version, but I went out and bought a physical version because I was that obsessed with this book. I actually bought 2 copies because someone in my life is getting it as a gift. So that person is watching. It might be you. I might be spoiling your Christmas present. But this book, so good. It is a nonfiction book about the evolution of female-specific phenotypes in the human race. And it's impeccable. It is so good. I love it immensely. I can't say enough good things about this book. So the way this book works is it's broken down into several sections. Let me see if I can read them off real quick. Each section focuses on a different like female phenotype of humans, and then talks about how that specific trait evolved to be in evolutionary biology. So the first section is milk, and then we have the womb, or like uterus, perception, legs, tools, the brain, the voice, menopause, and finally ending with love. So it's really cool the way it's set up. Is it starts with very like kind of concrete biology type functions, so it kind of eases you in, and then gets into more kind of like esoteric society building type stuff. Again, focusing on women specifically the entire time and citing tons and tons of research and papers. The bibliography is huge, so you know it is some good science up in there, because this author, Kat Bohannon, did some work. She did the work for this book, and it shows, and it's so digestible and readable, and I just think everybody should read this book. You go out, buy this book, get this book from your library, do whatever you got to do to read this book, because it is incredible. Preferably do something that will help the author get paid, because she put in a ton of work. What I also really appreciate about this book is the author seems to have political leanings very similar to mine. So she is very trans-inclusionary. She does a lot of talk on the total diversity of women's experiences. So I appreciate that part of this as well. Again, going into just the sheer total amount of work that goes into this book, it's huge, and I really appreciate it. So thank you to the author for endowing this book upon society. Next book I finished was A Magic Steeped in Poison. This is going to be in that same vlog Delilah Green was. So again, look forward to that in a future video. This was, I don't want to say generic, but I've just, I guess, in recent years read quite a few books with a similar sort of setup, where a young woman's family is in trouble. She needs to go do a thing with royal people to gain favor or to steal a MacGuffin. It's very much like a YA fantasy story, and definitely not generally something I would pick up for myself. I'm glad I read it just to kind of reaffirm that as pretty as all of these covers are, I really shouldn't be investing time and or money into these books. But yeah, it was fine. It was fun. The magic system was fairly interesting. It was all based in like tea brewing, so you like brew the tea with certain ingredients and it can change the way the tea functions magically or medicinally or whatever. So that was kind of cool, but yeah, just not really for me. Next up, I had the book club pick for Bailey's book club, Shelf This, and that is, oh, actually I have a physical copy of this too. Dance Upon the Air by Nora Roberts. Most of the book club hated this. I have very mixed feelings on this book. So like, I enjoyed my reading experience. I had a good time reading this book. It was fun. I had fun. But the love interest in this book is bad. Like, actively not fun. And the other person that like mostly enjoyed their reading experience in the book club was Martine from Just Martine. And I think they and I had a very like similar experience, where at some point we just kind of stopped paying attention to the romance aspect of this book and just like vibed in the atmosphere and the relationships the main character had with like other side characters, and just didn't pay attention to the main character with the main male love interest. So this book follows a woman named Nell. She escapes an abusive relationship by faking her own death and moving to like this island off the coast of Massachusetts. Starts a fresh new life. Gets involved with witches, which, you know, like the synopsis, it sounds super dope. And like, I wish it were as good as the synopsis. I'm probably gonna keep reading these books because I'm trash and I enjoy trash. So like, it is what it is. The next book I finished was Her Night with the Duke. This is a historical romance novel that I read for the same vlog that I've talked about now for the third time in this video that you will watch later. I, for the most part, enjoyed this. Again, this wasn't so much like, you know, like in Dance Upon the Air, it was specifically the male love interest that like drove me insane and was like legitimately not a good person or a good character or somebody that I would want to vibe with in real life. This book, it's not that the main characters were like bad people, but they just do that thing in historical fiction where they're like, oh, we can't be together because of the rules of society, but then like you're rich, it doesn't matter, you don't have to follow rules, like you're rich people creating problems for yourself. I tend to struggle with like that dichotomy. I don't find it like tension building or exciting, I just find it kind of annoying. So like that's why sometimes I tend to struggle with historical romance, because I don't like rules. Yeah. And finally, the last book I finished in November was a beta read I did for a friend of a friend. This was like the romantasy one I was talking about. Again, it doesn't really make sense to like rate it because it's not a finished published book, but I had a good time reading it and I can't wait to see the author full on publish this thing and get it going. Probably should have asked the author if I could have like mentioned anything about it, but you know, we're vibing. I did a beta read. It was a good time. And we're done with this video. I feel like this is so long for only being 6 books. Why did I talk about all these books so long? Whatever. I'm at 93 books for the year. So in the comments below, make your bets as to whether or not I will get to 100 books by the end of December. I want to say yes, but my reading has been kind of erratic, so I don't know if I can actually read 7 books in the next month. I would like to, though. It's definitely possible. I've read many more than 7 books in a month, so I know for a fact I can do it. But I don't know, we might just be reading some children's books like on December 31st just to make this happen. That's what I got. So thanks so much for watching. I will catch you on the next video.